Do you want to learn what the best strategies are when it comes to paying down debt? Well, you've come to the right place. I'm Hervin Pesa. I'm a financial planner, and in this video, I'll talk about the debt avalanche. I'll first talk about how it works, some key points, and I'll actually go through an Excel sheet that I've had to build just for this. We'll also go back to Mike's story. He's our case study from yesterday. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll share the link in the comments section. See, after all the hardship we've gone through in the past year and a half, almost 2 years, this video may be a lifeline for somebody you care about, so DM this to them, or better yet, learn it and then help them get it done. This is video 28 of 30 for our 2021 Money School. It's a free mini course we created for the month of September. It shows you all the money lessons you wish we learned from school. So now, there are actually 3 debt payment techniques that I'll cover in this series. Yesterday, I already talked about debt consolidations. Tomorrow we'll talk about the debt snowball. I'll help you decide which will work best for you based on key questions and situational examples. Again, my aim is to just give you the understanding of each debt payment strategy and which one will get you to your payoff date sooner with the highest success rate. I'll exclude real estate, mortgages, and business debts out of this. I'm just assuming that these are non-deductible, non-mortgage liabilities. We'll address those in a separate video. So what exactly is the debt avalanche? I mean, this name may sound strange if you haven't heard it before, but actually you might be already trying to do it. It's actually the most straightforward way to pay off debt. This is in fact the most math conscious, and most math teachers and robots will tell you to do this. Remember that with debts, interest is the cost of renting money. So the debt avalanche actually focuses on paying off the most expensive and the highest interest debts first. This means all other debts, except for the one that's being prioritized, is being paid at the minimum level. The biggest advantage of the debt avalanche is that it is the most mathematically sound when it comes to paying off debts, right? Like, it's the most efficient, of course, without considering refinancing. Now, if you ask any robot, it's probably the recommended solution. And this is how most people will instinctively think about paying off debts. They want to tackle the biggest and most expensive one. So let's revisit Mike. He's our example again from our case study yesterday, and we'll keep using his story and keeping the figures consistent throughout the rest of the series so that we can actually properly compare the different strategies. Now, remember, he has 4 credit cards with a total balance of $14,000, and he also has a student loan of $21,000. The credit cards have the following balances and interest rates. There's a PC MasterCard with $6,500, has an interest rate of 25.99, TD Visa card at $5,000 with an 11.99% interest rate. The Costco MasterCard is $1,000 with 19.99%. And lastly, there's a Walmart MasterCard at 29.99%. The student loan is charging a 4% interest currently. Now, to pull off the debt avalanche, he will create a payment priority that puts the most expensive debt first. So in this case, the Walmart MasterCard gets prioritized, then the PC MasterCard second, then the Costco MasterCard, then the Visa, and lastly, the student loans. I just want to talk about something real quick. Like, how do you pay debts successfully? There's more than one way to pay off debts, that's for sure. Now, I understand that depending on the size of the debts, it may be okay for you to take a year or few to just fully pay everything off. Give yourself that time. The key here is consistency and preventing yourself from going backwards. And one of the key resources for that is setting up an emergency fund, so we'll cover that in a few days. That way you don't end up dipping back into your cards when the bumps and detours come your way. Because let's face it, without any doubt, we will encounter those surprises. Now, video 26 talks about a simple budget that you can actually stick to even if you've failed in budgeting in the past. I'll, again, link in the show notes. I actually wanted to show you that because it provides guardrails so you don't unintentionally dip into your free cash flow, and you also don't unintentionally dip back into debt. And all done by living without guilt in spending. So check out that video. That video talks about a front-loaded budgeting hack. Front-loaded because you do all the hard work up front, and you can quickly tell how well you're doing simply by looking at a single number. Just one number and you know if you're on track or not. Now, even after creating a budget and finding expenses to reduce, if they don't empower you, that's okay. But what if you have nothing left to cut? You may still be a little bit short, so you have to do a few things, right? Like, you have to create a spending plan, build an emergency reserve, maintain a consistent strategy, and understand, again, that this is a journey. You shouldn't feel defeated because you're not there yet, because you haven't hit your zero debt day yet. It'll come. Last point that I want to share is find an accountability partner. If you're married, bro, sis, it has to be your spouse. You have to work together on this. Now, before I get to the technicalities, I just want to tell you, right? Like if you're watching a video like this to get out of a bind, I believe in you. Whatever has led to this point here, it doesn't have to keep you where you are. Give yourself permission to accept what happened. Give yourself grace. Now it's solution time. Let's move on. So how does the debt avalanche actually work? Well, there's multiple steps. I'll go through it with you guys step by step. Step number one is reviewing your current budget and how much free cash flow you can dedicate to paying off debts on top of what you're already doing right now. So let's say on top of Mike's current payments, which is already $430 for the credit cards and $387 for the student loans, he can only allocate an additional $83 for now, making his total debt payments at $900 every month. Let's remember that number. Step two would be to determine the minimum monthly payment for all the debts outstanding. Now, since Mike's case is made up, I'll just assume that all the debts have a minimum repayment of 1%. It's usually 1 to 3%. If you were doing this yourself, by the way, you have to call each credit card that you have in every loan facility, because some have fixed rates where you can't change it no matter what. In this case, let's say that the student loans for Mike's payments can be reduced to a minimum of $300 every month. Step three is to create a payment priority based on what we discussed earlier, which is focusing on the highest interest rate first and going down to the lowest rate, making that our last one. Now, based on our example, Mike would have the following priority list. Step four, any debt repayment beyond the minimum amounts that used to go to the other debts will be redirected to the prioritized debt. This means everything else will be paid at a minimum and nothing else. You do this again and again until one is paid off, until the second one is paid off, until finally you get to the very last facility. What happens is as you pay one off, more and more of your cash flow is going to be redirected to the next debt and so on. In Mike's case, we have 5 stages. So stage 1, there's 1 primary and then there's 4 that's being paid at the minimum. Stage 2, there's 1 primary and then there's 3 that's getting paid at the minimum. You get the point, right? The more individual debts you have, the more stages or the more checkpoints you'll have to go through as you progress. All right, let's put this into practice. I'll put the spreadsheet on the screen. Now, in Mike's case, he has $900 as his cash flow allocated to debt payments, right? The minimum payments of all the other debts add up to $425 a month. That means $475 is gonna be used to crush that Walmart MasterCard. He'll do this until the first debt is all gone. See, for Mike, the Walmart card will be paid off in 4 months. And at that point, the payments would then be used to go to the PC MasterCard while maintaining the minimum on every other debt. Because I'm doing this in September of 2021 and I'm assuming that we don't actually implement the strategy until October, this Walmart MasterCard should be paid off by January of 2022. In January of 2022, there will be a small balance on the card, so there will actually be additional payments directed towards the MasterCard in January. So you'd take the minimum, which is $65 for the PC MasterCard, plus whatever the leftover amount is from the $475 that used to be allocated to the Walmart card. Now, if I was Mike, this is a big deal, right? Like, he's 1 debt gone. This is a reason to celebrate. The new repayment now ends up at $540 with the new priority. And he'll keep doing this until it's fully paid off, which in this case is a little bit longer. It's a year at April 2023. Then he transitions the payments over to the Costco card. But at that point, instead of having $540, he'll also have $10 freed up from the Costco minimum. So his new payment every month is $550 to the prioritized card. At that point, the Costco card will then be paid off. Just simply doing this in 3 months, it'll be gone. So in June of 2023, he would have crushed 3 out of the 5 debts that he had. So now comes stage 4. He only has to deal with 2 payments, $600 going to the Visa and $300 going to the student loan, which will end in February of 2024. Now, at the last leg, he's gonna be making the largest contribution to a single loan, which is $900 every month, to the student loan starting from February 2024 until it's completely paid off in June of 2025. Woohoo! That means he is debt-free and he hits the goal. Now let's quickly run through a pros and cons list. Of course, I have to give you the caveats, right? So the first pro is this gives you focus. It gives you direction. Now, most people who are overwhelmed with debts have their focus and their dollars just spread way too thin. Using a prioritized hit list like this makes it clear where you need to pour all of your free cash flow to. The second benefit kind of ties into number one, but it's on the psychological end of this, all right? This is about a mind game, but I hope this strategy, creating a strategy like this, gives you permission not to chase everything all at once and gives you permission to let some things go. It's not just always about chasing. So as long as you're making the minimum required payments on all your cards, you will be fine credit-wise. And the third is, compared to the debt snowball, which we'll discuss tomorrow, you will pay less interest. How much more or less will solely depend on your own personal situation, of course. So I'll just have to remind you, right? Like, I'm giving you as much examples that I can use, but it's still up to you to make sure that these situations and these techniques and this information applies to you. Always consult somebody you trust, a trusted advisor, right? Let's move on to the cons. I only have one right now. This is still a self-directed strategy. It relies heavily on your own direction, your own discretion, and your own willpower, right? See, in this case, the first debt was small, but you may be in a situation where the highest interest-bearing debt is also large. This means that there's going to be months or maybe even years where you feel like you don't quite make any progress and you continuously keep making minimum payments on the other debts. That could feel so draining, but that's why I spend time going through the stages, piece by piece, stage by stage, right? There's a season for everyone. You know that when we look at this through a yearly time frame, through a monthly time frame, you understand that you are now running your own race at your own pace. Before I wrap up, I just want to share a few more things with you. I wanted to share the spreadsheet with you guys, what I'm using on the screen here, but I put it together 3 hours literally before I'm recording this. I was originally going to use an online tool and another spreadsheet sold online. I was just going to pay for that, but the end user agreement for it was so sketch. It bars me from ever making my own in the future and sharing it with clients. So I didn't like that, and even if I paid for that user license right now, it also forces you guys to buy it. So I wanted to create something that I can share, or if you guys wanted to pay me for it, that's something we can discuss later, but right now that's not really my intention. So just give me a few days to run through a beta with a few of my Smarty Pants friends, and if you happen to be an Excel whiz, please send me a DM on IG or info@hervinpesa.com, and I'll give you the unlocked version of this sheet, so you can see all the formulas, all the nested ifs, ands, and ors, all the goodies. So especially if you're an advisor, I'll give you a white label access to this when it's finished. So thank you for helping me out in advance. So leave me a comment or a DM for now, and I will respond to you and send you a link once it's been tested through, because I want to share this with you. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the support. If you're learning and researching this to help somebody around you, I'm proud of you, right? Like, that's doing something good. So we'll do the debt snowball method tomorrow, which is about a few hours for me actually, but I'm excited for that. So once again, I'm Hervin Pesa. I'm just one more person sending good vibes your way. I know you can crush this. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, stay aware, take control. I love you all. Watch yesterday's video about consolidation here, check the whole playlist, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Shoot, I finished this video without asking you guys to like it.